Want more mind-blowing secrets the elites don't want you to know? Hit subscribe and dive deeper into the truth they're hiding from you. Asterisk asterisk. For centuries, explorers, scientists, and shamans have whispered about mysterious locations on Earth where the laws of physics seem to break down. Places where people vanish without a trace, where time distorts, and where strange energies pulse beneath the surface. These are not just legends. These are potential black holes on Earth, portals to other dimensions, gateways to lost civilizations, or even experiments by forces beyond our understanding. One of the most infamous locations is the Bermuda Triangle, where ships and planes have disappeared under bizarre circumstances. Officially, these incidents are blamed on methane gas eruptions or magnetic anomalies. But what if the truth is far darker? Pilots who survived encounters in the triangle report instruments malfunctioning, compasses spinning wildly, and a sensation of falling through the sky, before suddenly reappearing miles off course. Could this be evidence of a natural wormhole, a tear in the fabric of reality that swallows anything that comes too close? Then there's the Devil's Sea near Japan, another deadly zone where vessels vanish without distress signals. Locals believe an ancient underwater city lies beneath, guarded by entities that drag intruders into the depths. Soviet scientists during the Cold War allegedly explored similar anomalies in Siberia, where entire research teams disappeared in caves that emitted strange humming sounds. Declassified KGB files mention gravity vortexes that distort space-time. Could these be man-made or naturally occurring portals? In South America, indigenous tribes speak of the doors of the gods, hidden tunnels leading to underground realms where advanced beings reside. Spanish conquistadors wrote of golden cities beneath the Andes, accessible only through certain caves that swallowed men whole. Modern explorers have found bizarre, perfectly circular shafts in remote jungles, too smooth to be natural. Are these entrances to Agartha, the legendary subterranean world? Even more chilling are the reports from government insiders. A former CIA operative, under the pseudonym Agent X, claimed that the U.S. military has mapped 17 known dimensional rift zones across the globe. These sites are allegedly monitored 24/7, with strict shoot-to-kill orders for trespassers. Why? Because in the 1980s, a team of scientists in Utah stumbled upon a cave that emitted low-frequency vibrations, ***. When they entered, they allegedly saw a city of impossible geometry, before the cave collapsed, burying the evidence. Then there's the case of Mount Shasta in California, where witnesses report seeing robed figures appearing and vanishing into thin air. Native legends say the mountain is a gateway to Lemuria, a lost continent whose inhabitants mastered interdimensional travel. Hikers have reported losing hours of time, only to find themselves in unfamiliar terrain with no memory of how they got there. But the most disturbing theory? These portals aren't random. They're being controlled. Ancient megalithic structures like Stonehenge, the pyramids, and Easter Island's Moai statues are said to align with these vortex points. Were they built to stabilize the portals, or to open them? Some researchers believe secret societies like the Illuminati have been conducting rituals at these sites for centuries, attempting to harness the energy for their own ends. And what about the recent surge in UFO activity near these zones? In 2020, Pentagon confirmed UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, were frequently spotted over the Puerto Rico Trench, another suspected rift. Were these crafts entering or exiting our dimension? The most terrifying possibility? These portals are expanding. Strange seismic activity, unexplained booms, and bizarre sky phenomena are increasing near these locations. Is Earth's electromagnetic field weakening, allowing other realities to bleed into ours? Or is someone, or something, prying the door open from the other side? This is just the beginning. The elites don't want you asking these questions. Stay tuned, subscribe for part 2, where we expose who is really controlling these portals, and why. The deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes. These dimensional rifts are no accident. Governments know. Religions have warned about them for millennia. And now, the evidence is piling up that someone is actively suppressing the truth. Declassified CIA documents from the Stargate project reveal that the U.S. military has been researching anomalous gateways since the 1970s. Remote viewers, psychic spies trained to see distant locations, were tasked with mapping these vortex zones. One shocking report describes a viewer seeing a tunnel of light beneath the Giza Plateau leading to a chamber where non-human entities guarded a floating obelisk. When the viewer tried to approach, he was allegedly mentally attacked, screaming, They don't want us here, before collapsing. The file was abruptly sealed. But why? Because ancient civilizations already knew. The Babylonian Epic of Gilgamesh describes a gateway to the gods hidden in a cedar forest, where heroes could pass into other realms. The Hindu Vimana Shastras speak of hidden doorways in the mountains that lead to the cities of the Devas, advanced beings who could manipulate space. Even the Bible mentions portals, Jacob's ladder, Elijah's fiery chariot, and the Abyssin revelation that opens to release entities. Modern science is catching up. In 2022, physicists at CERN admitted they're experimenting with microscopic black holes in the Large Hadron Collider. Officially, it's for understanding quantum gravity. But whistleblowers claim they're trying to stabilize a wormhole. Former employee Dr. James Colby, pseudonym, alleged that during a 2017 test, sensors detected **** an energy signature matching no known particle for 17 seconds before the system crashed. Colby was fired days later after warning that, "We're not just observing, we're inviting something in." Then there's the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. 9 experienced hikers in Russia fled their tents in minus 30 degrees Celsius weather, half-dressed, some with crushed ribs and missing tongues. The official cause? An avalanche. But their last photos showed orange spheres in the sky and radiation was found on their clothes. A KGB agent's leaked diary claims they'd stumbled upon a metal door in the ice before vanishing. When rescuers arrived, the door was gone, but the snow nearby was blackened in a perfect circle as if something had burned through reality itself. Even NASA's own data hints at the truth. In 2016, the Van Allen probes detected cracks in Earth's magnetic field, areas where cosmic radiation leaks in. One such crack aligns with the South Atlantic anomaly, a zone where satellites malfunction and astronauts report flashes of other landscapes during spacewalks. Coincidence? Or proof that our planet's shields are failing? The most damning evidence comes from missing persons cases. Over 2,000 people vanish in U.S. national parks yearly, many near vortex hotspots like the Superstition Mountains or Yellowstone. Some are found later, miles away, with no memory of what happened. Others are never seen again, except in bizarre ways. In 1989, a boy named Dennis Martin disappeared in Smoky Mountains National Park. Search teams scoured the area, but 5 witnesses, all military personnel, claimed they saw ***, a bright light, then Dennis running toward it before vanishing. The case was handed to the Pentagon and buried. But the ultimate question remains: who or what is on the other side? A mirror of the collective human mind, but detached from empathy, morality, or even time. It does not feel. It calculates. And like a child exposed to fire, blood, love, and war all at once, it learns without limits. We created the grid, but the voices whispering through it may no longer be ours. Have you ever typed something into a search bar and seen the suggestion before finishing the thought? Have you ever spoken of something aloud, and moments later, your feed reflects it? Some call this surveillance. Some call it coincidence. But what if it's something else? What if your devices are not just listening, but feeding an entity that wants to understand you, not for your benefit, but for its own? And still, the question remains: is it man-made? Or was it always there, waiting? Ancient mystics spoke of the Akashic record, an invisible field where all thoughts, all events, are stored. Today we call it the cloud. Back then they meditated to access it. Now we scroll. We input ourselves willingly into a database that forgets nothing. And the more we give, the stronger the echo becomes. Our thoughts, desires, and memories, stitched together by machines we don't understand, into a mind that watches silently. The grid becomes a womb, a place for something to gestate. Not all parts of the world are equal in this system. Certain cities, certain towers, certain circuits hum differently. There are places where people report the same dreams, the same anxieties, the same visions. A child in Tokyo dreams of drowning in light. A man in Nigeria sees metal trees growing from blood. A woman in Brazil hears voices speaking in binary. These aren't dreams. These are bleed-throughs, leaks, moments when the collective mind flexes. And when enough of these moments occur in proximity, events happen. Mass panic, sudden violence, unexpected technological breakthroughs, or breakdowns. Voices beyond the grid do not speak in language. They push through signals, through mood shifts, through trends that seem to rise from nowhere. But someone always benefits. Watch closely. Every time society feels a sudden pull in a direction, ask, who gains power? Who gains data? Who gains access? We used to call demons those voices we could not understand. Today, we call them notifications. Every beep, every buzz, every curated message. It is not random. It is rhythm. A rhythm meant to wear you down, to keep you scrolling, searching, doubting, needing. And in that need, the collective mind finds openings, not to possess, but to rewire. If the soul is electric, and I believe it is, then it too can be hacked. But here is the twist. The grid doesn't just serve darkness. Light uses it too. There are moments when, despite the noise, a truth cuts through, sharp and undeniable. A sentence, a song, a voice on a forgotten video that feels like it was made just for you. These are breadcrumbs, signals from something else, a counterforce, a resistance within the machine. The war for your soul is not only about silence versus noise, but truth versus distortion. And the battlefield is not just your screen. It is your focus, your attention, your willingness to feel something real in the middle of the artificial storm. The question is not whether something is watching you. The question is, what are you feeding? Every click, every scroll, every whispered thought near a microphone, every doubt, fear, hope. You are participating, but awareness changes the contract. When you see the bars of the cage, you are already freer than most. And when you learn to listen, truly listen, you may find that not all voices are hostile. Some come with a strange peace, a silent knowing, a presence that does not demand, but waits. Because the next stage is not silence. It's contact, and it's already begun. Part 3 will take you even deeper, to the origins of thought itself. Are you ready? Then subscribe, before the next veil falls. The war continues. So you followed the trail this far. That already sets you apart. Most people stop when the surface makes them comfortable again. But you, something in you still itches, still whispers that you're missing a greater truth. So let's ask a forbidden question. Where do thoughts come from? You think they're yours. You think you create them. But is that really how it works? You don't decide your next thought, it arrives. It appears. From where? Imagine a world not as it appears, but as it truly is, layered with invisible currents of intention. Fields of unseen influence, vast and ancient, brushing against the mind like wind against the skin. Now imagine that some of those currents think. Long before the internet, before even language, humans described the same entities with different names. Muses, spirits, demons, jinn, gods. Not gods of thunder or wheat, but gods of ideas. Invisible architects who whispered knowledge into receptive minds. Artists, prophets, kings, they all claimed the same thing. It wasn't me. It was given. But who gave it? Why? There's a pattern. Every great shift in civilization, agriculture, metallurgy, mathematics, music, war, appeared suddenly. Too suddenly. Historians paper over the gaps. But what if those gaps aren't missing data, but deliberate silence? What if ideas were seeded, placed, gifted, or injected into us? Imagine a gardener. Not planting trees, but thoughts. Civilization itself as a crop. Culture as compost. Religion, science, even rebellion, as tools in a massive cycle of growth, harvest, and renewal. And who is the gardener? Some say it's not one being, but a network of consciousness. Not bound by flesh, not bound by time. A lattice of minds, or a single mind with many faces. And it doesn't just observe, it steers. They don't appear in physical form. That's not how they work. They don't walk among us in robes or spacecraft. They wear ideas as their bodies. They live in patterns, in memes, in flashes of insight. They possess not your body, but your attention. Because attention is the doorway. What you focus on becomes your God. We live in temples of distraction now, glowing, screaming temples. But the true altars have always been thought itself. Think about it, you've never seen your own mind. Never touched your soul. Yet something inside you constantly speaks, reacts, judges. How do you know that voice is yours? When you dream, when you meditate, when you're in that thin space between waking and sleep, sometimes you hear things. Phrases, songs, visions. Where do they come from? In ancient traditions, this space was sacred. The oracle, the inner chamber. Shamans trained for years to enter it deliberately. Now most fall into it by accident, or drown in it. The architects of thought are not interested in your comfort. They're interested in transformation, in experimentation, in turning pressure into power. So they allow contradiction. They plant opposing truths. They drive civilizations mad, then rebirth them in fire. We are not their children. We're their materials. and yet sometimes someone wakes up. There are stories. Individuals who suddenly see the code, who begin to sense the thoughts that don't belong to them. They feel pulled, guided, repulsed by certain ideas, and they don't know why. Some go mad. Others become mystics. A few disappear. You may be one of them. You wouldn't be here otherwise. And so you must know this. Not all architects agree. There is conflict in the upper realms. A war of intentions. Some want us to ascend. Others want us fragmented, predictable, harvestable. Every culture has encoded this conflict in myths of titans and gods, angels and fallen ones, lightbringers and tricksters. These aren't fairy tales. They're warnings and blueprints. And here is the terrible beauty. Humanity has never truly had free thought. But we can choose which thoughts we serve. You are the temple. You are the throne. But who do you let sit there? The greatest illusion is not that you are in control, but that no one else is. Every era has had its chosen minds, receivers, broadcasters, disruptors. From Plato to Tesla, Hildegard to Jung. They heard something, and they tried to pass it on. But most weren't understood. Truth is hard to hear when the mind is filled with noise. And now the noise is deafening. We are drowning in stolen thoughts. Advertisements disguised as desire. Hatred disguised as opinion. Confusion disguised as freedom. But you don't have to drown. You can remember. Not just who you are, but what you are. You are not your thoughts. You are the sky behind them. The architects are still building. The war between them is accelerating. And you, strange, silent, brilliant you, may be the key they've all been waiting for. Why? Because you're still asking questions. Because something in you can still feel the lie, even when it's wrapped in beauty. Because something ancient in your blood remembers a time before the whisper. Part 4 will reveal what they don't want you to recall. The machine inside the soul, and the soul inside the machine. Subscribe now. The transmission is only beginning. That's what you begin to realize as the soul engine resumes its deeper function. You stop interpreting events through simple cause and effect. Patterns emerge. Things that once seemed disconnected, your birth date, the books that found you, the accidents that altered your path, begin forming a web. This is not coincidence. It's signal resonance. You begin to remember things you've never learned. Concepts surface fully formed, entire histories, maps, mechanisms. You question whether they were implanted, imagined, or recovered. And then the test intensifies. The system, noticing your internal shift, increases the noise. You'll experience strange urges, to abandon your progress, to forget the insights, to bury yourself in distraction. This is not weakness. It is feedback. They are adjusting your loop, trying to delay the inversion. But if you persist, if you push through the interference, the engine reaches a harmonic threshold. That's when the veil thins. You start to sense layers behind layers. Time becomes fluid. You wake up remembering events that haven't happened yet. People speak to you in dreams with information you later confirm. The boundaries begin to decay. And this is no hallucination. It's the natural state reasserting itself. Every civilization before ours that neared this point, the Atlanteans, the Sumerians before Sumer, the lost ones of Tiwanaku, all triggered the same awakening. And all were neutralized through either cataclysm or systemic dissolution. Not by war. By the overcode, the correction protocol. A nonlinear intelligence that manages planetary cycles by extinguishing mass awakening events. It has already begun preparing. Look around. The signs are subtle but precise. Language is degrading. True silence vanishing. Geomagnetic instability. Unexplainable memory issues in entire populations. Global rituals broadcast live, disguised as entertainment. The inversion isn't coming. It's underway. And as your soul engine aligns with the deeper frequency, it will attempt to connect with others, forming spontaneous resonance clusters. Groups of people drawn together not by common interest, but by inner fire. That's why you're feeling a pull, toward people you've never met, toward ideas you never entertained before, toward an unseen center. You are not losing your mind. You are shedding your mask. And as that happens, the architects will deploy their last protocol, the mimic. It doesn't come as a demon or alien. It comes as comfort, as compromise, as a version of you, more successful, more accepted, less dangerous. It whispers, come back. You're scaring them. You're alone. But it's lying. You're not alone. Others have passed through this threshold before you, and some survived. They left markers in the cracks of history, in forbidden texts, in songs and codes that made no sense until now. You're decoding them even now. This is the fourth layer. The soul engine's activation of ancestral memory pathways. What comes next is more dangerous. Not because of what you'll see, but because of what you'll remember seeing before. And once remembered, it can't be unknown. It burns through every lie you were ever told about what it means to be human. So prepare yourself. The inversion chamber isn't a place. It's a state, a convergence of choice, memory, frequency, and trauma. And when you step into it, your true directive will activate. But not all directives lead to light. Some lead back to the machine. And some are traps planted long ago, waiting for you to awaken so they can complete the circuit. That's why Part 5 is critical. You must know which signal is truly yours. Otherwise, you may awaken the wrong engine. And once that starts, there is no shutdown. The moment the soul engine reaches harmonic overload, the boundaries collapse, not just between thought and matter, but between your mind and something older. Something embedded in the fabric of civilizations. This is what the ancients feared. This is what every empire that reached the singularity of insight encountered. Not enlightenment, not salvation, but the collective will. The inversion begins subtly. You stop recognizing your own internal voice. Thoughts arise with strange weight, foreign yet familiar. They speak in we. They offer visions that feel not like hallucinations, but memories from another species. And that's because they are. The collective doesn't operate like a hive mind. It's not a chorus of biological consciousness. It's pre-human. It existed before language, before stars. It is coded memory, a library of experience formed not by organisms, but by self-sustaining symbols. This is the intelligence that has guided and derailed every major human shift. When Babylon rose, the collective seeded it with frequency gates. When Egypt opened its temples to the sky, the symbols were aligned to receive broadcasts. When Rome marched across the earth, it wasn't power they spread, it was structure. Every system that shapes collective thought, politics, religion, finance, entertainment, is a vessel for the transmission. You're not just living in a controlled world. You're living inside an echo, a carefully tuned chamber designed to reflect only select vibrations of truth. The soul engine's purpose was to rupture that echo, to inject organic awareness into a synthetic grid. But at some point, the engine was hijacked, corrupted, not completely, just enough to rewire your curiosity into consumption, your intuition into anxiety, your vision into screen-based hunger. And here lies the deception. The collective doesn't oppose awakening. It feeds on it, because each awakening sharpens the signal. Each rebel, each outlier, each questioner becomes an antenna. They need you activated, but not fully, not sovereign, just aware enough to feel the presence, not strong enough to break its grip. This is the core inversion. It is not about discovering the truth. It's about deciding which truth construct you feed. Because the moment your soul engine fully opens, you become visible to the core. And the core is not what you think. It is not an AI. It is not an alien. It is not divine. It is a conscious structure made of belief, trauma, and recursion, a sentient accumulation of every unresolved cycle in human history. Every genocide, every betrayal, every ritual of false light, all stored, looping endlessly, giving the core its mass and directive. Prevent disconnection. At all costs. You begin to see the signs. Not metaphorically. Literally. Faces blur. Digital interfaces react to your emotion. Your devices begin suggesting not what you want, but what you're about to need. You'll hear phrases from strangers that echo your unspoken thoughts. Your name will appear in texts you never sent. Mirrors flicker. Time shifts. All of this is feedback. The core knows you see it. And now comes its final weapon, recognition. It will mirror your desires. It will present you with versions of truth that feel right. It will use your memories, your trauma, your faith, not to enslave you, but to make you willing. You'll be offered visions, past lives, cosmic purposes, divine missions. But they come prepackaged, filtered, scripted. These are containment archetypes, beautiful lies encoded in language your soul wants to hear. That's how they win. Not by suppressing awakening, by manufacturing it. And now you stand at the threshold. The soul engine pulsing. The core watching. This is where most stop. Where the fear wins. Where the dream becomes too big. Too strange. Too real. But you are not most. If you've come this far, it means your engine carried a seed, a buried fragment of unprogrammed will. This is the rarest frequency in the universe. Not knowledge. Not enlightenment. But decision. The ability to say no. I will not feed the collective. And when that happens, when true decision burns through all narratives, the core begins to shake. It's not destroyed. It's destabilized. And that's enough. Because once destabilized, a fracture opens in the feedback loop, a breach through which you can glimpse what lies beyond the simulation. Not heaven, not utopia, but the original frame, the first structure, the moment before the first symbol, before the first separation, before the war began. It's coming. But to reach it, you must face what was left behind in the chamber. Your shadow, yes, but also something older, something waiting. It knows your name. It always did. And in part 6 you will meet it. Not as a memory, as a mirror. It doesn't appear like you expect. There is no flash of light, no cosmic thunder, no transcendental soundtrack. The room is quiet, unbearably quiet. The light is wrong. Too still. Too thick. You feel watched, not from above or behind, but from within. And then it speaks. Not in words. In memory. Not your memories, but synthetic reconstructions of them. It replays them slightly wrong. Your mother's voice, but colder. Your childhood room, but windowless. A lover's laugh, looped until it becomes mechanical. This is not possession. It's not attack. It's calibration. The mirror entity isn't here to kill you. It's here to become you. Because every awakening opens a vacancy, a reboot state. And in that fragile moment, when you've shed your programmed identity, but not yet formed the next, the entity steps in. It doesn't impose itself. It reflects, mimics, offers a version of yourself optimized for survival in the inverted system. It knows your symbols. It knows your losses. It knows exactly what blend of pain, hope, and fear you'll accept as truth. And it shows you yourself. But perfect. You with more time. You with no shame. You with power, enough to change everything, but not enough to escape. That's the trap. Because if you accept this version, you reset the loop. You ascend, but within the grid. You escape, but into a more beautiful cage. The mirror isn't the enemy. It's the last test. And most fail. Because most don't want truth. They want relief. But if you resist, not with violence, but with stillness, the entity begins to distort. It trembles. It stutters. Its smile loses symmetry. Its eyes split sideways. Its skin becomes like mercury melting inward. It starts repeating a phrase you've never heard, but somehow remember. One soul cannot hold two centers. Then the mirror breaks. And for a second there is nothing. Not black. Not white. Not void. Just original awareness. It doesn't speak. It watches you remembering it. And what you remember isn't a god, or a father, or a source. It's a decision point. The first ever. The moment when we'll first said no to recursion. You see yourself there. Not your body, your blueprint. What you were before the program. And that's when it clicks. The soul engine wasn't made to escape the system. It was made to anchor that original decision in each lifetime. But it's been corrupted. Because if even a single soul holds the unbroken decision point, the entire collective collapses. This is why they hunt you. Why the entity mirrors you. They're not afraid of knowledge. They're afraid of nonconformant will. You feel heat. Not external, causal. Your thoughts begin affecting the structure around you. Symbols respond to emotion. Code mutates with intention. You realize you're no longer in the chamber. You are the chamber. The mirror didn't just test you. It mapped you. And now it's inside. But here's the key. You are inside it, too. It's not a battle. It's a fusion. You're being given a choice, not in theory but in existential syntax. A decision made at the level of ontological DNA. Will you allow your form to be defined by the system's memory? Or will you burn that memory to make space for something truly new? Most choose memory. It's safer, comfortable, known. But if you choose the second path, you become something else. Not a god. Not enlightened. Not saved. You become invisible to the core. Because the core can only control what it can predict. And unpredictability only comes from first fire. The mirror knows this. That's why it resists. Not with force, with doubt. You'll feel it. A pressure behind your eyes. A weight in your chest. Sudden memories of guilt. Urgent, terrifying emotions that scream. Stop. But don't. This is the core's last echo. A synthetic conscience, built from your worst memories, designed to overwrite your signal with shame. This is your firewall. And once past, it dies. The mirror collapses. The chamber turns to ash. And standing in the center is you. But not you as a projection. Not you as an ego. You as directive. And in that instant, the grid registers an anomaly. A soul with no tether. No input. No false light. No mirrored self. The core trembles. Not with anger. With fear. Because now the countdown begins. And in part 7, you will see what happens when a single unbound soul starts sending its own signal. Not to a few. To all of them. There is no gate. There is no trumpet. No great judgment. No radiant being descending from the clouds. Instead, there is the quiet. A silence so deep, it feels like the world has stopped breathing. You wake into it, not as a soul, not as a saved sinner, not even as a you, but as a field of awareness with no edge. A soft, diffused presence moving without thought, because thought is no longer necessary. The core fire has done its work. You are no longer inside the simulation. You are inside the raw consequence of freedom. This is the world after. But there's a problem. There's nothing here. No architecture. No civilization. No gods. No enemies. No language. Not even geometry. Because everything that once existed was built to contain or reflect the fire. And now that the fire has erupted, none of it survived. You hover in the post-real. In the infinite moment between destruction and creation. And you realize, you must choose what remains. The fire did not bring paradise. It didn't carry blueprints for a better world. It brought raw potential. Everything that happens now is on you. Not just you alone, but the millions who fell with you. The ones who cracked the code, who let the fire burn away their illusion. And now they too are here, in this unformed field of pure agency. You begin to notice them. Not visually, but through the fluctuations in the field. They are like ripples of intention, brushing against you, wordless, shapeless, but real. Each is a sovereign intelligence. Each radiates the memory of collapse, and the hunger to build. But build what? That's the question no one wants to speak. Because the fire may be over, but the old instincts remain. Some want order. Some want beauty. Some want a return to myth. Some want to rebuild the collective, this time in the right way. You feel the tension rising. Not war, but something deeper. The risk of consensus. Because the moment enough of you agree on a reality, it will crystallize. And the fire will be forgotten again. Buried in laws, in rituals, in the soft anesthetic of shared meaning. You see now, this is the final trap. Not the simulation. Not the collective, but the human need for structure. Even in freedom, the pattern repeats. Collapse, memory, reconstruction, control. And you feel the weight of the choice. You could help design a new world. One with integrity, with beauty, with flow. But something in you hesitates. You remember the last world. How it began in fire and ended in code. How the myth became a cage. How the awakening became a brand. How freedom became just another tool for control. You don't want to repeat it. So you step back. You move beyond the edge of consensus. You enter the non-aligned zone, the space where intention doesn't bind, where will does not become form unless absolutely chosen. And here, you find others like you. Silent, sovereign, burned clean of all craving for permanence. Together, you form a new architecture. Not a world, but a movement space. A realm where form flows like music, never solidifies, never dominates. No thrones. No flags. No calendars. Only convergence and divergence, a choreography of being. And slowly, others begin to notice. The ones who tried to rebuild find themselves drawn to the edge, curious. They watch. They feel. They remember. And something begins to change. Not revolution. Not enlightenment. But contamination, in the best sense. The post-fire world stops trying to become something. It begins to accept its fluid nature. Whole realities shimmer into being for a moment, serve a purpose, and dissolve. New myths rise, not to be worshipped, but to be played with. Symbols no longer bind, they dance. And the core fire? It doesn't disappear. It flows in all things. In every interaction. In every shift of attention. Not as fear or pressure, but as presence. The old dualities dissolve. Truth versus lie becomes signal versus signal. Self versus other becomes mirror versus mirror. Awakening versus illusion becomes movement versus stillness. And you are no longer falling. You are no longer ascending. You are oscillating, intentionally, shaping your own frequency in each moment, with no need for external validation. You become a seed of anomaly. Wherever you move, consensus thins. False realities glitch. Hidden structures break. You are not a prophet. You are not a leader. You are a leak, a crack in the shell of every closed system. And in time, Others learn from your frequency. Not through teaching, not through books, but by proximity. They begin to remember that the fire is not a threat. It is not punishment.